Hare Krishna devotees, welcome for ISKCON Vext, outpost of ISKCON Seshadripuram for the Sunday evening program. So we will continue as usual with the Bhagavad Gita class. Last week we had completed 6th chapter, verse number 20 to 23. We did 20 to 23 last week. This week we will look at verse number 24 and 25. I'll share the screen. So verse number 24, Bhagavad Gita, verse number 6th chapter, Dhyana Yoga, verse number 24. स निश्चयेन युक्तव्यो योग अनिवृन्न चेतसा संकल्प प्रभवान् कामांस् त्यक्त्वा सर्वम् अशेषतः मनसैविन्द्रिये ग्रामं विनियम्य समन्ततः स निश्चयेन युक्तव्यो योग अनिविन्न चेतसा संकल्प प्रभवान् कामांस् त्यक्त्वा सर्वान् अशेषतः मनसैवेन्द्रिय ग्रामां विनियम्य समन्ततः स निश्चयेन युक्तव्यो योग अनिविन्न चेतसा संकल्प प्रभवान् कामांस् त्यक्त्वा सर्वान् अशेषतः मनसैवेन्द्रिय ग्रामां विनियम्य समन्ततः. Let's look at word by word translation. Sa, that, nischayena, with firm determination, yuktavyaha, must be practiced, yogaha, yoga system, anirvinna chetasa, without deviation, anirvinna chetasa, without deviation, sankalpa, mental speculations, prabhavan, born of, kaman, material desires, tyaktva, giving up, sarvan, all, asheshataha, completely, manasa, by the mind, eva, certainly, indriya gramam, the full set of senses, viniyamya, regulating, samantataha, from all sides. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith, and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation, and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Purport. The yoga practitioner should be determined and should patiently prosecute the practice without deviation. One should be sure of success at the end and pursue this course with great perseverance, not becoming discouraged if there is any delay in the attainment of success. Success is sure for the rigid practitioner. Regarding Bhakti Yoga, Rupa Goswami says, Utsaha nischayat dhairyat tattat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbir bhaktihi prasidyati. One can execute the process of Bhakti Yoga successfully with full-hearted enthusiasm, perseverance and determination by following the prescribed duties in the association of devotees and by engaging completely in activities of goodness. Upadeshamrita, 3rd verse. As for determination, one should follow the example of the sparrow who lost her eggs in the waves of the ocean. A sparrow laid her eggs on the shore of the ocean, but the big ocean carried away the eggs on its waves. The sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. The ocean did not even consider her appeal. So the sparrow decided to dry up the ocean. She began to pick out the water in her small beak, and everyone laughed at her for her impossible determination. The news of her activity spread, and at last, Garuda, the gigantic bird carrier of Lord Vishnu, heard it. He became compassionate towards his small sister bird, and so he came to see the sparrow. Garuda was very pleased by the determination of the small sparrow, and he promised to help. Thus, Garuda at once asked the ocean to return her eggs, lest he himself take up the work of the sparrow. The ocean was frightened at this and returned the eggs. Thus, the sparrow became happy by the grace of Garuda. Similarly, the practice of yoga, especially bhakti yoga in Krishna consciousness, may appear to be very difficult job, but if anyone follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help, for God helps those who help themselves. The next verse. Verse number 25. शनैर् उपरमेद् बुद्ध्या धृति गृहीतया आत्मसंस्थं मनः कृत्वा न किंचित् अपि चिन्तयेत्. शनैर् उपरमेद् बुद्ध्या धृति गृहीतया आत्मसंस्थं मनः कृत्वा न किंचित् अपि चिन्तयेत्. शनैर् उपरमेद् बुद्ध्या धृति गृहीतया आत्मसंस्थं मनः कृत्वा न किंचित् अपि चिन्तयेत्. Word by word translation. Shanaihi, gradually. Shanaihi, step by step. Uparamet, one should hold back. Buddhya, by intelligence. Dhriti grihitaya, carried by conviction. Dhriti grihitaya, carried by conviction. Atma shamstam, placed in transcendence. Manaha, mind. Kritva, making. Na, not. Kinchit, anything else. Api, even. Chintayet, should think of. Translation. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Purport. By proper conviction and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activities. This is called pratyahara. The mind being controlled by conviction, meditation and cessation from the senses should be situated in trance or samadhi. At that time, there is no longer any danger of becoming engaged in the material conception of life. In other words, although one is involved with matter, as long as the material body exists, one should not think about sense gratification. One should think of no pleasure aside from the pleasure of the Supreme Self. This state is easily attained by directly practicing Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshur-unmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tamsa Jeevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Rishabhanu Suthe Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Om Tat Sat. A.C. Surapalaka Prabhu has joined too. Hare Krishna Prabhu, welcome. Okay, so now the previous three verses what we read, it talked about how a perfect practitioner is situated. It says, this perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. And upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from mental contact. So this was about the end state. And again, Krishna is going a little bit further, or rather going a step back and says, but it's not so easy to get to that end state. And what is required to get to the end state, one of the most important thing that is required. He's talking about that in these two verses, where he's saying one should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with the determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. And next sloka is reiterating that fact about determination. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. So this is the process, right? As sadhakas, be it through the dhyana yoga or this whatever we call the ashtanga yoga or the yogic process, or be it the bhakti process. The point is about how one should be very consistent, how one should be very determined, and he or she should not be carried away by speculative thinking, and should be getting away from the lure of the material sense gratification. So this is very, very important. So we can discuss on these points, whatever from our practically how these things really become a challenge for us. And here even the verse from Upadeshamrita has been quoted. This is a very famous verse where how do you practice devotional service? Utsaha nischaya dhairyat tattat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritti shadbir bhakti prasidyati. So this is very, very basic thing, which is enthusiasm, right? See, if we are to take up devotional service, it feels so alien for us because we have been so much conditioned into so many uh, materialistic endeavors all through our life so far, and even in our previous births, right? The fact that we are here in this material world right now is proof that we have been actually more accustomed to gratifying our senses in the previous um, birth, and therefore the previous birth, and therefore the previous birth, and therefore the previous birth. So this has been time immemorial, like Krishna is saying. We have been caught up into the sense gratificationary process, and therefore when something of real knowledge is given, where and which is completely contradictory to what we have been believing, what we have been practicing, it is very difficult to take it up, right? You always try, some many times I have personally experienced, like when I try to, for example, not that I'm very good at mridanga, but even whatever little beats I know, the first time when you try, the first you say a few of those rhythms, uh, uh, when you when you first understand, like these finger, this means this, so you just understand that. Then when a first like small bit is being given and you try to play that, you try 3-4 times, and then your hands feel so much pressurized, you feel like stopping, right? And then you just put it down, and then you go for a small walk and come back. You could relate this to so many other skills that you may have learnt. The first, when you try it out a little bit, yes, little endeavor there then feels like overwhelming. You feel so much overwhelmed, and you feel like your brain is completely exhausted. You feel like that. Then you suddenly give it a break and go and come. But the same thing which happens to us, because we have been so much accustomed into this material life. When the minute we say take up devotional service, then we find it very difficult. So how to overcome is that we should take it up with a lot of enthusiasm. We were seeing this even in when we were reading Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. So Prabhupada was there in New York, right, first, and then he went to San Francisco. So this New York, he had developed some devotees who were all completely in the opposite side, like into all drugs and whatnot. But then when Prabhupada came, somehow they got that inspiration. And then when Prabhupada sang, when Prabhupada gave classes, slowly they got attracted, and then they could actually feel the bliss of what this Krishna consciousness is all about. And they were all very enthusiastically practicing. And then when Prabhupada therefore got an opportunity to go to San Francisco, so these devotees were now in separation of Prabhupada. At that point in time, the same kirtana that they were so much enthusiastically participating in, that tempo went down. So, and that Prabhupada could notice when he comes back, and when he is leading the kirtan, he is not seeing that Josh in their, when they are following. And then Prabhupada is actually saying that, So that means the point is, we lose our enthusiasm very fast. If there is some very enthusiastic person around us, then we are able to take up very strongly, and then we go all over and go do whatever is needed. But when that strong personality is not there around us, then our enthusiasm slightly slacks. It keeps coming down. And we have seen this in in our own devotional life. It is also applicable in material life. When when you are around some very enthusiastic persons, then you become also a go-getter. When that influence is not there on us, then we slack. So therefore, even for spiritual life, that enthusiasm is very, very much required. And then nischayat, that means conviction, right? The most of the time, conviction also sometimes comes with the force of the speaker, right? Sometimes when you're looking at some debates, sometimes when the person who is speaking for or against, when you are hearing them and they are very strong in their oratory skill or whatever, we feel that guy is right, something. But again, the other fellow is even stronger than him, then we feel maybe he is also right. That way it keeps going. We keep shifting. And that is happening because we are influenced by the conviction of the other person who's speaking on the other side. But then we cannot always be like, at the mercy of the others. That's the most important thing. While we take it up for, to get that kind of a creeper, like, that's very important. But of course, that is very much necessary. That's why in devotional life, we keep saying, right? Association, 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 association. The strongest of person may still start faltering if he is not in association of devotees who are, like-minded, who are actually very deeply thinking in the subject matter. But irrespective of that, we should also cannot be all the time be like a creeper. We should try to be sometimes the person around whom everybody becomes the, takes up the support, right? So that means if you are enthusiastic, then, you can actually be the support for someone else. And then in that process, we will gain, others will gain, and then, the parampara can continue. If the spiritual master is not there, what do we do, right? When sometimes the Siksha Guru is not there, what do we do? It's not that, the whole world comes to a stop. We have to move on. By just following them, we are actually showing our greatness to our loyalty to our spiritual master or whoever. Like, if Prabhupada is no more here, but then physically he is no more here, but he is living through his books. But we should have the enthusiasm to read Srila Prabhupada's books, and then that word should enthuse us, just like if Prabhupada is speaking in front of us. We should be able to hear his voice, all that. But it's more important that, we should, the more we are able to follow, then we show more our gratitude to that person who enthused us, that way. So this is something which we need to be taking lessons from. And sometimes, right, conviction means we have not still seen Krishna, right? So, sometimes, so we are selling a product without showing the product, right? If you see the last 20, 30 years, I have been selling in one sense, not physically showing the product. But many of you have somehow taken up thinking that, this product is very good, right? This is the most difficult selling. You don't show the product, but you sell it. So, Harinam, right? We say this is a marketplace. This is a marketplace where we sell Harinam. That means this has been going on, right? From, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said that this is a marketplace and we have to sell the Harinam. So that means to sell a product is one, and then to buy a product without really seeing it, right? So that means it's always a little bit of a doubt. Now he told me, and I have been also thinking that it's okay. Last 10 years of my precious life, I have been trying to do this, but I've still not seen Krishna. No, so is this whatever, if I am blessed with 60 years of life, 10 years is, I don't know how much percentage is gone, right? Not doing so many other nonsense. Not that, it's wasted, but sometimes one who's so much into materialistic thinking, we may think, 10 years of my life, I have missed out the onion and garlic, for example, or I have missed out some nonsense which I would have otherwise been doing, right? You tend to get maybe my smoking, or maybe my, films or whatever, so many things that we are into in our material life. So we feel, this is gone, like that. So, but the point is, it's about the conviction of what we are aiming for, Prabhupada, you aim for the moon. You are not aiming for small things here, bulbs or something which you can just jump and touch it. That's easy, right? Anybody can do it. But then we are aiming for the stars, we are aiming for the moon. And to that extent, it's going to be tough. This is not for the weak-hearted, if I should say. Don't take it very negatively. But this is not for people who are looking for quick gratification and then, okay, I want to move on. It's fine, for whatever we did, we get something, definitely. So Prabhupada, for example, when he was saying, somewhere he mentioned, many of my disciples will go to the heavenly planets. Because, after some point in following for some number of years or some months or, some maybe a decade or so, if we give up, what happens? So the Lord is very magnanimous, right? He does not, okay, therefore, whatever you have done is lost. He doesn't say that. So he says two things. One is, The spiritual balance, whatever, you can continue from there. That is one side of it. But also, if you are so much hankering about material uh, benefit, he says that is available in plenty. Take as much as you want. He sends you to the Satya Loka or wherever, this, not Satya Loka, maybe, below that is this Swarga Loka. Maybe 2 levels below that is Swarga Loka. Bhur Bhuva Swarom. That Su represents Swarga Loka. So there, you are there in that Swargaloka and enjoying because you have done some spiritual life, So that means by doing little bit, Swalpamapi asya dharmasya trayate mahatobhaya. That little bit of devotional service you do, you are actually getting a lot of material benefit. And after that, you can come back and start off with the spiritual balance, what you have already gained. So both these things are there. It's not like, this thing is lost. But then if you don't complete, you land up in Swargaloka. So that's why Prabhupada was saying, if some of my devotees, disciples are not taking it seriously after I go, then they will all land up in Swargaloka. So then some devotees thought about it. Generally, if you see here in India, when you say you will go to Swargaloka, we are so happy. Yeah, that's what I came here for, kind of a thing. But then these devotees thought about it for a bit and said, oh my God, I don't want to go to Swargaloka. Because there I will enjoy for so many hundreds of years or thousands of years. And then I have to come back here and then lead another hippie life. I don't want this at all. Forget it. I don't want to miss this bus. I have got an amazing opportunity now. I will not lose it anymore. So this is the mood in which they took it up. And today we are seeing after 50 years or 60 years after Prabhupada has left, these disciples are actually carrying on the parampara so beautifully with so much conviction, so much encouragement, so much enthusiasm, and so much of fearlessness. It's very difficult to follow, but they have been doing this, and they have been our inspiration, and they are egging us on, making us move. They are now completely there. They don't need any kind of nothing can deviate them from their path. They are already like in their 70s, and they should be in their bhajanas right now, right? Not going to various places. If I think of my Guru Maharaj just sitting there right behind me, there is nothing for him to achieve anymore, to take more disciples or, become famous. Nothing. He has done it all. He has seen it all. But why in kind of this difficult health situation or, whatever other challenges that are there, but he's still going around to various places and inspiring people. That is just for the sake of the fallen souls. I just want to, till my last breath, I want to give my best to my spiritual master. Just pull up these people, whoever are there, till my last breath is there. I want to do this. I want to serve my spiritual master, and I want to save this fallen soul. This is the mood of Guru Maharaj. And not just Guru Maharaj, many of Srila Prabhupada's sincere disciples and Guru Maharaj's God brothers, they are all at it like that. So this is the requirement for us as neophytes who are trying to follow. These qualities are very, very important. That means you just can't simply try it for a few months or a few more years and then say, no, I've still not seen Krishna, and then I will just move on. But the fact is, you will see Krishna. That's the fact. There is, Krishna is saying, right? Many people have followed this process, and I have achieved this. He's saying this in the 4th chapter. I think 1st or 2nd verse. He's saying that, many of them have followed this path, and they have achieved perfection. What is that verse? This one is there. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarishyo viduhu sakalena mahata yoga nashta parantapaha. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarishyo viduhu. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. So that means many saintly kings have followed this science of Bhagavad Gita. The same thing we are also receiving and we are following. Therefore, the product, you show me the product right now in front of, when I'm saying show me, we are seeing Krishna in every second actually around us. We even neophytes, I mean, when I'm saying neophytes, it includes me. We are all also experiencing Krishna in some form and shape. I am not talking about that experience. There are sometimes some new people who come for Bhakti Vriksha programs after a few weeks, 1 or 2, 3 weeks also. I have heard experiences where people, they got into some situation, and then they were able to think of Krishna, and some help happened, which is they could not even imagine. So they could see Krishna even after 3, 4 weeks like that in that experience. Similarly, for all of us also, such things are there. I am not talking about that experience. I am talking about the physically, physically being able to see the way we think. To see means to see through the physical eyes, right? The form of the Lord, not his perceiving him or feeling him around you. Not that, the seeing him with our, I don't know if you want to call it with your eyes, or seeing means in our context, in material understanding of what our perception is through our eyes. But even that is practically possible. Prabhupada says that you can actually see Krishna. It's not like oh, you can feel him, you can perceive, you can physically see Krishna right there in front of you. So that is all possible, and we have seen Prabhupada himself personally seeing this, such things in Prabhupada's life. People have seen that Prabhupada is actually seeing Krishna and talking. So, but we can't see them. That's our problem. But Prabhupada is physically seeing him and talking to him. And not just Prabhupada. There have been many, great devotees of the Lord. Not just in our parampara, in various paramparas, they have personally, physically seen Krishna and experienced him that way. So this is practically possible, but needs a little bit of a patience and conviction and enthusiasm. So this is there. And also there are other aspects which are there, okay, this is fine, okay, consistent practice and all that is one side. The other side is when our knowledge is shaken, right? So when we are listening to a class, in our temple, through any of our devotees who are very nicely speaking based on what Prabhupada has given, or when you are hearing Srila Prabhupada class, amazing, you are really into it. And particularly when Prabhupada's classes, the 30-40 minutes classes, when you hear that, many times I have experienced, you feel that you are there, the rest of the world is completely closed and beyond you, those 40 minutes. Then after that, when you come back to this world, then everything comes back to us. So Prabhupada literally takes us to that spiritual world. Literally, we can feel that. Every 40 minutes class, you can feel that with Prabhupada. So when they do that, we are there. But then after that, we are not able to be there. Then, it happens like I mentioned about this debate. So someone else puts some other points. We are not having enough knowledge. That's why we say, we are, what do you call, the beginner. What is that, Adhikari? Kanishta Adhikari. Kanishta Adhikari means one who is just a beginner. So he has some amount of faith. He is seeing, he is in association, he is enthused, everything. But in the course of time, when he goes outside, when he is exposed to another person expounding on some other philosophy, then he feels, yeah, this also seems to be great. That kind of a little bit of a shake happens. Next, further stages, you are still convinced that what you are doing and what you are following is correct, but then you are not able to defeat the other person with the argument based on your shastric conviction. That is the second level of it. But first level is there, we fight sometimes, most of the time, right? When you find some intellectuals speaking, the so-called intellectuals, so-called spiritual intellectuals, or so-called atheist intellectuals, and then we are convinced, yeah, this is all nice. Everything is coming from Big Bang only here. Nothing is there called Krishna or anything. It's all, you can see that whole very clearly through that telescope. That is, they're showing there, what is there. No, this happened when Prabhupada was clearly said the moon is a place in which you cannot go. That is there in the scriptures very clearly. Moon is one of the Swargaloka, one of the heavenly planets. And you need to have qualification of karma to go to the moon, and you cannot go with this physical body what we are having. So this was all there till America sent the satellite. What is that satellite? Those two persons, right? Yuri Gagarin and another person, Armstrong, and these two persons went. What is that? I forget. Whatever is that satellite? Apollo, no.
Apollo, Sputnik.
Maybe Sputnik. I know.
Yeah, because Prabhupada usually mentions that.
Yeah, Sputnik was one of the earlier rockets, I think. Okay, in whichever rocket they went, whichever rocket they were supposed to have gone. I don't know whether they really went. But anyway, so Prabhupada, so before that, all his disciples were gaga, this is a moon, is a heavenly planet, nobody can go there, all that. But the minute America supposedly sent that flight, and then these two gentlemen, there was live telecast of that, and then these two gentlemen landing there, and then jumping around, in the supposed to be moon place, then these disciples were shaken. Oh my God, we thought Prabhupada is correct. Here you see, science has proved that these fellows have actually landed there. We are physically seeing moon. They were in that mood, and then Prabhupada said, no, this is not moon, they have not landed on moon, because Shastras cannot fail. Shastras were very clear, that is what it is. And therefore Prabhupada, but these, some of these devotees who didn't have that conviction, they actually then left Prabhupada. Some of them did leave after that, oh no, Prabhupada is proved wrong. So maybe everything else is saying is also wrong. This kind of a doubt comes in their mind, and then they left. But then if you really see, we don't even know. Really, right? There were so many theories which are floating around, even in America, there are many, whatever, this thing which says it is not, many, you go into YouTube, you will know many people arguing that nobody landed in moon really, like, it is done in studio or whatever. Or some people say that, maybe they went into something in the space, but it necessarily need not be moon, it is something up there. But we are thinking it is moon, because what is the moon by definition is actually a Swargaloka, and it is not possible for us to get there. So this is the thing. So like this, if you are not having the faith, conviction, knowledge of the scriptures, then we are shaking, right? So this is one kind of shake. I mean, we are actually discussing many different types of shake which happens to us. One is, our lack of ability, lack of interest to follow. That's what we discussed first. This one is about the, about our knowledge, or about our conviction, about our thing, based on this kind of a intellectual or speculative kind of thinking. Or when someone says, like, you go on TV, and then there is this bearded man, and then he says there is nothing called God. And then, oh wow, what a speech, what a speech. And maybe, that this guy is right here, and then he says, I am God, you are God. He says all these things, and then I suddenly feel, oh, I am God. I suddenly feel some halo around my head, and I think I am God, right? All these kind of things happen. And then slowly everything we try to relate. Oh, no, Prabhu, question answer always comes in relation to what that man, because I in my head have it that, that man is right. And then, the scripture, whatever you are saying is all wrong. So that is one level of lack of conviction. That is also there. Then there is this other situation where, we are following, we think therefore life should become hanky-dory, right? Everything, whatever I try, I should be very successful. I'm not worth it, but I should get it. These kind of things. Many people take up devotional service expecting a lot of life immediately becomes very rosy, right? Everything becomes right for me. Everything is happening. My job, which was bad, now I get a job. Now I was having problem with my boss, that's solved. I had a relationship problem with my wife, that is solved. Those kind of thinkings are there, which is fine. It does happen also, because Krishna says in the initial stages, Krishna does give these benefits, so that, to give little bit of encouragement to that devotee. But that doesn't mean that, the benefit of what I am doing is for that purpose. But sometimes, our karmas also take effect. We have some setbacks in our life. Then we say, oh, I followed Krishna consciousness, but I actually lost my job. I did not get this money, I fell sick, this happened, that happened, and then our enthusiasm slowly comes down. And then, we are back to our old ways, as though everything else gave you everything. Actually you failed miserably in every endeavor that you have made even earlier. Why then you go back to that? We don't have that common sense to think about it. Even that was also giving me the same. This is not about just getting benefits. This is about getting out of this mess of birth, death, old age and disease. That people don't get it. They go back to the old demigods. But then you have been worshipping the demigod so many hundreds of years. Why you still got into trouble even otherwise? Tomorrow are you not going to get into one more trouble? But you will still go back to that demigod worship. This is all there. Don't mind me, but these are sometimes, hitting hard in our, this one. Because we are immediately shaken. These are real practical things, this, all of us go through such dilemmas, such shake of our faith, shake of our enthusiasm and all of these things. So Krishna is here very clearly saying, you need to pursue. You need to pursue. And of course, he's talking about help by Krishna, right? That wonderful story of this bird who said, I will drain the ocean, come on, what is this? It's not possible. But then the Lord, through his devotees, makes it happen. And Prabhupada himself is an example, right? In his material life, he was an aristocratic businessman. Some 1960s or whatever, 50s. Few, equivalent of like 20 crores or something like that he invested. And he lost all of that money. So his business got beaten once, twice, thrice, 3 times his business got beaten up. So then he took up Krishna consciousness. Now, when he takes up, so that means, so even it's not that he was following Krishna consciousness even earlier, but he was also doing business. But every time he made an endeavor and that endeavor failed. But his faith in Krishna did not. In fact, on the contrary, it increased. He realized how futile all these materialistic endeavors are there. And therefore, his conviction became more and more stronger towards Krishna consciousness. And at some point in time, he was zero, literally nothing. But then, if you really see, then he went to America with nothing in hand, only 3 books that he had written, that Srimad Bhagavatam, first 3 cantos he had translated. He had taken some copies of those books and then he went abroad. And he lands there as a pauper with no place to go, nobody to care for. He was living in the Bowery, in places like, it's like a filthy place, it's like a slum. He's living there, such a great sannyasi from an Indian, any sannyasi in Indian context, they will live in a very nice sacred place like that. But here is a sannyasi who is just going and living in a filthy place, surrounded by all kinds of drug addicts, you name it, robbers, murderers, everybody, but he's going living there. But then Krishna actually was protecting him all through. If you really see, right in the ship, he had this situation, but Krishna protected him. He had this heart attack, Krishna protected him, and he brought him to the United States. And that 1.5 years when he struggled, he was always creating opportunities for Prabhupada. If you see certain things which happen are mind-boggling, can never happen. Like, in anyone's normal life. Not once, twice, but many, many times. Krishna's hand can be seen everywhere. At least Prabhupada saw it. We could not see it, but Prabhupada saw it. And then he had another heart attack. And even at that time, Prabhupada didn't say, oh, Krishna, you sent me here. You came on the boat when I was having my first heart attack and you said, you are rowing nicely like that and telling me, you go ahead, I'm there to protect you. And then you give me another heart attack, Krishna. How can I, I am doing your job and you are giving one after another obstacle even in that work. I am not doing material work here. I am not doing my work here. I am coming and doing this for you. But you are again giving me one more heart attack. He never thought like that. At that second, when he is having that pulsating sensation in his heart, he told his disciples, now, if at all I know something happens to me at this point in time, you all simply chant Hare Krishna. and I will also chant. And then he said Hare Krishna, and he fainted at that point in time. And then he recovered, and when he recovered, he revived, consciousness came, he started off with Hare Krishna. And there are many things like this happening. And on and on. It's not like even then Prabhupada is made the most famous international personality, right? When he comes back to India during Indira Gandhi's time, the home minister kind of a person comes to receive him at the airport. And then can you imagine in the airport, whichever was I don't know, Bombay or Delhi, when he lands, they make a dais and make Prabhupada sit on the dais, and then they perform a Guru Puja there. All the ministers are without chappal, they are standing there, and then they come there and then they all perform Aarti to Prabhupada. And here is that old man who went without even, 40 rupees also he didn't have. That's what his one son was saying. So he didn't have anything, and he was a pauper. But how Krishna elevated him to that platform. Again, don't look at it materialistically. Okay, therefore, if I pursue, I will get a few more crores maybe, not that way. Because Prabhupada had so much crores. Some press reporters asked these questions. So how much do you spend per day? And Prabhupada used to answer with we spend so many $1,000 per day.
$800,000 per month.
Some like $800,000 per month, my wife is prompting that he spent like that. He gives that answer. And how much money you make per day by sale of books, he will give some X number of things. But again, $40,000 per month, something like that. So now all of these things are, if you look at it materially also, it was there. But Prabhupada never thought that this is my money anymore, right? He was only having it for, basically it was all in this trust, and Prabhupada said X percentage, maybe 50-60% should be used for printing books. 10-20% for building temples. Like that he gave various allocation like that. But he personally did not bother about it, but he became a very successful person. So I can't say Prabhupada became a success spiritually because he was success even before he was born, right? It's not like he came with his karma and therefore he had to be liberated. No, he was a liberated man earlier. But for us, success in terms of liberation is guaranteed. So that is what we need to be worried about, rather than all the other successes which we in our neophyte situation may think is success, either fame, name, money, or position, or even simply, winning all arguments that I take, whatever each one of us can have our little ambitions, because I'm now spiritual, I should be successful in everything and anything I do. No, this is more like materialistic way, but we are not supposed to be, because this verse clearly says, Nischaya, Dhairya, with all of that, what should happen? We should get more and more convinced to move away from materialistic propensities. So, and we will see this also. Slowly and slowly, our hankering for material existence will go down. That doesn't mean you will not eat. That doesn't mean you will not live in a house or anything like that. You will certainly, it's not like therefore you will immediately run out of your home and, wear saffron and all that. So maybe some of us may, I don't know. But then that is not the criteria. The criteria is you will not be materialistically inclined to things. You may have, but you may not look at it with the same lusty desire of what you looked at that material thing as earlier. You look at it, yeah, chalta, be there. Let it be there. How can I use it in Krishna's service? That mood will automatically come. We will see that. It could be money, it could be house, it could be your car or whatever you have. We will certainly get that name or fame, whatever. We will slowly get there. And that state is actually very blissful. If you really see, when you are not really having hankering, you may or you may not have the facilities of it. But even if it is there or if it is not there also, you will be completely blissful. This is what even the earlier point said, once you get there, there's no way of thinking, oh, this is what I want to be at all the time. That feeling will come. That came in the previous verse. We will come to that state of consciousness. So that requires Nischayat, Dhairiyat, and then there was also this word Tat Karma Pravartanat. That means one has to execute his regulative principles. That's the most important thing. That means one should follow the prescribed duties, whatever is our prescribed duty. And of course, the regulations. Follow the 4 regulative principles, you chant your rounds, and then follow the don't offend Vaishnavas, read the scriptures regularly, Srila Prabhupada's books regularly, um, participate as often as possible in in association of devotees, in devotional activities. Keep at it. These things should take up services, like take up some concrete service and then execute that. Take that as your, like as your like whatever your spiritual master says. Take that as your what do you call, mind and soul, or whatever they say, right? Take that as your ultimate what do you call, ultimate purpose of life. Execute that. Whether I am able to see bliss or not, that is another thing, but I will just move on, and slowly, the next verse says, gradually you will see the bliss, and at that state we will see this is the ultimate. There is nothing more for me to do. And others may say, oh, this person is not taking onion garlic, or this person is like this, like that. But that is their problem, not my problem, right? I don't feel, oh, I'm missing that or I'm missing that, because you are blissful in your own state of being in Krishna consciousness. So that is there. So with this, we will stop. If there are any comments, any questions, any realizations, welcome. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandut Pranam.
Dandut Pranam Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Wonderful class, very crisp and clear. Nice topic actually. I mean, you gave a lot of detail. So you spoke about trying to achieve perfection by having patience, conviction, and enthusiasm. So we need to endeavor, and faith and conviction and knowledge of scriptures is essential. So you said that with all this, with time ready, hankering for material objects reduces, and inclination for material sense gratification will go off. So you just mentioned that that state is very blissful, although we don't stop our activities which might still look like material. We are honoring prasadam and all that. We don't stop eating and all those things. But we have to have association of devotees on prasadam, scriptures, activities and services we need to take, like you said, which your guru gives or which you take as a seva. And so we need to control our senses from material sense gratification. So it is not about getting benefits, it is about getting out of the cycle of birth and death. So we need to pursue in this manner. You even mentioned that one can, maybe there is a possibility one can even see Krishna face to face. You said there are many in our parampara who were able to see this, and there are others out of our parampara, in other parampara related to maybe like Sri Sampradaya or other Sampradaya, but there are instances and stories of elevated soul able to see even Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, like you said, is already, he came liberated. He appeared. I mean, he was not, that was not forced like us, Pada Jiva. So he is like liberated person. Even gurus in our parampara probably are able to, or some senior people, they're able to. So all that is, you also kind of compared it with sometimes people lose their enthusiasm because of maybe in life there are challenges, so people kind of lose enthusiasm, or sometimes they see things differently. Like you shared that launch of that space rocket or shuttle, where Srila Prabhupada had mentioned that nobody can land on moon materially. You have to have you can, through your spiritual activities probably you can, but you cannot just land in this body because it's a different body. So some people kind of lost, they were shaken. That's what you said. They were shaken, and they kind of didn't believe that and they left the mission. And so Srila Prabhupada probably said that some of his devotees will go to heavenly planets because maybe they did some spiritual endeavor, but they left it halfway or something like that. So others will carry on. So nice, very clear, very descriptive. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thanks.
Thank you, Prabhu. Nice comprehension. Hare Krishna. You did a nice summary.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Hare Bol, Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thanks for pointing out there are 9 aspects like patience, determination, and then without deviation, faith, and then controlling senses by mind, and then give up all 9 things. Just I'm listing out.
Yes.
Give up all material desires, born of mental concoction, intelligence sustained by full conviction, and mind fixed in oneself, and not thinking anything else. Step by step, one achieves success. So this order, very wonderful, and determination also. This sparrow and Garuda, baby step. As you mentioned, every devotee start with a baby step like sparrow, but with the support of all associating senior devotees, one could march towards that. The moment Garuda, as you mentioned, with Garuda's support or mercy, it has got that what a next stage. Okay, I should be without deviation. So it's really amazing. And I have one question. Even in Surgaloka, there are 33 million devatas and also demons. How to understand? Also the demons also there. That such a planetary, we believe in. It's a very elevated place. So how the scope of demons also could be simultaneously could be part of this Swargaloka.
Okay, so see, this Swargaloka is a place for enjoyment, right? So the demons generally are not in Swargaloka. They are, there are different worlds, but there are some demons who rise to the top and they even conquer Swargaloka. Not always, but some of them do. Some of them do. That's for a temporary point of time. But again, as I said, or I didn't say it today, but we have discussed many times. See, these 14 planetary systems are all material, right? They are all material. But at some point in time, one can reach to any of them. You can go to Swargaloka or you can even go to Padala Loka. You can do that, right? It's not that, you cannot go. You can go to any of these things. So, beyond a point, it doesn't make sense to be there or not. So that means why the demons can reach, not that every demon has reached. It could be 1 in a trillion or whatever, right? Because, if Hiranyakashipu, but these are not demons who are not demon like me. They are empowered demons. You see, they are none other than Jai Vijay. Right? So, in other words, they are actually devotees, but in the guise of demons. Not any demon can get there. So, in that sense, it's only with the empowerment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not that anybody can go. So that's the point you need to be very mindful. Yeah, because sometimes therefore how did some demons go anyway? But they went there. Because they are not like Jai Vijay are not ordinary personalities. Ravana is not an ordinary personality. Because Ravana originally is Jai Vijay. Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha are Jai Vijay. Right? So if they went and conquered, that is very natural. If you remember, I can give a simple another example of our times kind of an example to know this. When our Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Swami, once he was walking on the road with some of his disciples, and he looked up at moon and he said, even there now people are all becoming, their consciousness is getting corrupted. That's supposed to be Swargalok, right? But there also he said, we have to go, I want to go there to start preaching to them, he said. So now here Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was planning to go to moon planet or Swargaloka planet in that sense, right? So because he is a devotee, so the Lord empowers them like that. That way it can happen. But normally, in normal course, you cannot expect that you go with this body to the spiritual world. Not possible. Not the spiritual world, with this body to the heavenly planets. Not possible. For example, you remember that other story, right? Trisango. So this, who's this Muni Vishwamitra? He has so much of power like our scientists. He said, this fellow will come and say, I want to go to Surga. And he had that, because he has taken my shelter, I have to give him what he wants. This is what Vishwamitra's thinking. I have so much power. Like, these are all scientists, right? They can do things. So he said, I will send you with this body only to Swargaloka. Then he sent that man up towards Indraloka. And Indra, standing there, he turned him around and sent him upside down back into earth. So this fellow was becoming like a shuttle, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, and he was getting torn apart with the, with the space, the pressure and all of that story. And then Vishwamitra said, okay, you will not accept him there. I will create one more heaven separately and then put this man up there. So he created a competing heaven, and then he put this man there. So, such things are there. But then, these are not something which is so easy. Like, you are, Prabhupada says, right, for you to go to, even to Pakistan, you need a visa. Right? Then you will go to moon without any visa, is it? So those fellows are all sitting there like fools, allowing you to come there. It's very logical, right? So simple. There is life everywhere. You are seeing so many UFOs coming from different, that's also there, right? We are also believing there are so many UFOs which are coming, and therefore that means there is life elsewhere. Why not on moon? And those fellows are not simply sitting there and allowing you to invade into them, right? They will not. That's what Indra did, right? He didn't want this fellow to invade and send one more alien into his planet, so he threw him out. So such things are there. It's not like, we can straight away go wherever we want and all. If you can't even go to Pakistan, how will you go to moon? And that has happened, Tell me, after that, how many moon expeditions we have had? This is 40, 50 years back. Now we are so much big technology. Why you have not landed another person on moon? See, these questions has to be raised. You can't be cheated simply, oh, moon we have gone, why? After 40 years, you have still not gone once more means what does it show? Is it really you have gone to the moon or what? So these things are all there. So is there, but as you rightly said, some Rakshasas have gone to moon, or moon means heavenly planets. But then, those are not ordinary Rakshasas. They were empowered by the Lord, by the will of the Lord, they have gone there. Otherwise, you cannot go. Does it sort of address your query, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Thanks.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Nice question, sometimes this, but how come that, that is what it is, This is very important. We need to know and address. We can't, no, it is, happens. Nice, thank you.
Thanks.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Probably a very different topic, but maybe related in some ways, right? I was reading this very beautiful book that you gave, right? Chasing the Rhinos with the Swami, right?
Yeah.
And today, when you were talking about slowly you will move away from the material gains or whatever that binds you. One of the things that I realize is, materialistic doesn't only mean money and houses and all that stuff, right? When I was reading that book, the person talks about his journey, and these people are hard into drugs and stuff, right? Hardcore.
Yeah.
It's not easy to give up something when, just cigarettes is so difficult to give up, and they were into real hardcore stuff. For them to, just move away in a matter of months and get into the blissful state of where they were just by that enthusiasm, right? And just, that pure charisma of Prabhupada, probably, and it was just amazing. I was just thinking, materialistic thing does not only mean houses and money and stuff. It could be anything that keeps you there, right? For you to break through that and see a bigger bliss was very beautiful. So there's definitely something much bigger, right? Much more blissful. So when I read that, I kind of related. So just wanted to share, nothing else.
Very nice, Prabhu. Amazing. Actually, these are all the realistic things. Sometimes we just simply talking in the air, but these are practical things. In fact, now that you are encouraging me to say one more thing like this, which we were reading in our Prabhupada book. Prabhupada actually went, and there was in one society which is a nude society. Right, so all these fellows, the nude beaches and all that stuff. So there are people like that. They invited Prabhupada to come there and address them. So just imagine a sannyasi, particularly a very whatever in India, when you say a sannyasi, very revered, he will be like very welcome. So like he cannot be like but here are the nudes who are coming and sitting in front of him for a Bhagavad Gita class. Everybody sitting nude. Can you visualize? It's so pathetic to even think something like that. But here Prabhupada goes and gives a class to them, and it is mentioned that he didn't give a lot of philosophical class. He spoke, because what you will speak about Bhagavatam to these guys, right, who are completely lost the whole thing, even the dress. They have animals right now without even dress. But to them, Prabhupada is talking something. And it was not even what he spoke there, but at least it mentions it was not very, very deeply philosophical or something like that. He did mainly Kirtan, Harinam Kirtan. That was a main highlight, and there was some, maybe little talk. But after that, one fellow felt that, inspired, and he said, now, I think this does not make sense what I am doing. He wanted to immediately wear clothes and get out of the society and go and follow Prabhupada. Just one class, one Kirtan. Can you imagine? The power of pure devotees. So, this is amazing. That is the purity of the matter. Because Krishna is absolute. And when someone unadulterated gives Krishna, then we are immediately in that space of complete bliss. That pure devotees are able to show that to us.
Fantastic. Very nice, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Amazing. Thank you. So I'm sorry, we are already 8:25. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I just wanted to add what you just said. When Rohit Prabhu asked this question, I also thought of the same thing. Recently, we saw in the class, we read in the class that one session, and this guy wants to wear his clothes and leave up all intoxication and follow Prabhupada to, I think, New York or San Francisco.
Yeah.
So that is like, this is just opposite of what he was doing, and one session it changed him. So that was funny but very remarkable.
Yeah.
But
deep insights are
I
there.
just thought of the same thing.
It's all a question of how much we are able to see inside of that. Nice, good realization. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, bro.
So, thank you, devotees. We will end here, and we'll again meet up next week. Till such time, happy, blissful, Krishna conscious week. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare Krishna.
devotees.
Thank you very much for the wonderful session.
Thank you, devotees on YouTube, for joining ISKCON West, outpost of ISKCON Seshadevaram's Sunday evening feast program. We will continue next week. Till then, Hare Krishna.